Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Dynamics 365 Community AMA. My name is Fawad Khan, and I'm responsible for the Dynamics community. We have been bringing you this great series of Dynamics Ask Me Anything or Ask Microsoft Anything sessions, and we bring in product leaders and owners and executives who own different products and different programs within the Dynamics 365 ecosystem. We bring this to you so you can ask questions from these leaders directly and also get an understanding of the vision and strategy that we have on some of the key products that are being offered to you all. And this session is recorded. It is going to be available in the Dynamics community. And if you are going to ask questions, those would be visible in the Dynamics community. For this AMA, I'm super excited to have Swamy Narayana with us today. He is the General Manager of Dynamics 365 FastTrack program. Him and his team, including Dan, Gokul, and others would be joining and talking about the FastTrack program and all the other benefits that we have through this program that we offer to you for implementation services. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Swamy. Swamy, please take it away.
Thank you, Fawad. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining from wherever you are. Hopefully you're having a good day so far. We're delighted to join you today to answer any questions. As you probably have seen from previous AMAs, this is your opportunity to ask questions directly with engineering team. And as Fawad mentioned, I'm responsible for the FastTrack program, primarily on the operations application, which is finance, supply chain management, commerce, human resources, and project operations, what we typically refer as the ERP workload. So just a quick introduction. I've been with Microsoft for 13 years. Prior to that, I worked with auditing firms implementing ERPs, solutions for government. And within Microsoft, I was responsible for core financials. And then for the last 5 years or 6 years, I've been in this role where we act as the linkage between engineering and customers and partners to make sure that there is direct interaction between our community and engineering teams. I think I want to start off by saying thank you. I think if you look at the last 5-6 years, Dynamics has done tremendously well in the marketplace. I think most of that credit goes to this community of people who have helped us launch our cloud service, nurture it, grow it, and I think we have done a phenomenal job of competing with our market competitors and have done tremendously well for new customers as well as the existing customers who have been loyal to Dynamics Exact or AX for a long time of period. And I want to thank you from all my engineering leadership team for all your contributions, your help, and making Dynamics a formidable product in the cloud space. I think this will be different, right? I think if you look at the previous AMAs, they were all focused around specific product areas within the Dynamics 365. We are somewhat unique. We represent all of the product, and we created FastTrack program when we launched the initial version in 2016 with the first customers, to recognizing that in the on-premises world, we shipped the software, partners, did the implementation. If there was an issue, you contacted support, and we released updates in a quarterly basis and probably major updates every 2 to 3 years. Whereas in the cloud world, we are responsible for running your mission critical business applications 24/7. That means we have a much increased responsibility, accountability, and we have to understand your business a lot more closely. So we created FastTrack program with that intent to know that you have direct access to engineering, and we have direct access to customers and partners who are configuring, deploying these solutions. If you look at it, we have done more than just in the ERP world. If you look at in the ERP and the CRM together, customer engagement, we have done a lot more. Our intent is to bring the best practices, the intent of the product design, how to deploy them, and how to ensure that some of the processes are followed the way we like to see. So the framework is called Success by Design. The goal is to bring all of these best practices and the knowledge base to community, to all customers. The primary principles we operate around, right? Its goal is to early detection. As with anything, the sooner you detect the issues and risks, you are able to proactively mitigate them and then reduce the impact of that. So based on the detection that we do, we will provide proactive guidance and then ensure that we can predictably give you success with the implementation. If you look at the historically business applications or ERP world, you hear a lot of statistics that tell you many of the ERP projects fail. But our goal, and fortunately we have been lucky with this community, we have had one of the wonderful successful rate of implementation. And I think our success is extremely high given the new cloud solutions with the complexity of the manufacturing and distribution, commerce and finance processes we support. So what we have seen is, with the FastTrack engagement and the way we operate customer success, we are able to see a higher usage. In the cloud world, the metrics we look at is what we call monthly active usage, MAU. The MAU is an indicator of how well that particular service is used, which is a common term. Again, the three things we should look at it in the cloud deployment is time to value. How can we reduce the implementation time that allows you to get them to remain a consumer of your service? Once they are live, how do you make sure that they continue to increase the usage, the adoption? How can we maximize the investment they have made? Then the third aspect we look at it is if they're using well, are they really happy with that? This is the Net Promoter Score or NPS. We look at it to say how well they like the processes and the things that we support within the business application. So that was the intent of FastTrack program. I think we have evolved significantly from its initial version. And I think we have also matured both product and the service delivery capability. We have increased the knowledge base within the channel. So we have evolved the program along the way. If you are familiar with our program, right, the way we engage through 4 different phases of implementation, whatever the methodology you use, you can map it into typically these 4 phases, an initiate phase, an implementation phase, and a preparation phase, and an operational phase. So we engage through these different review programs. One of the initial things we want to do is what we call solution blueprint review, which allows us to understand the particular solution that you are deploying for the customer, your objectives, and the vision for your implementation. Once we have an understanding, we kind of come to mutual agreement to say that series of implementation workshops that we need to do to mitigate the risk. And then once we complete those implementation phase, which is requirements gathering, design, development, validation, you go through a small phase of preparation where you will make sure that you are ready for your production deployment. This is where you go through the go live readiness, and then we'll do some touch points during the pre-go live period. Our intent is to make sure that after you're live and stable, we are able to graduate you from the program. So our engagement starts post-sales and ends when we take you successfully live and then stabilize the operations. And along the way, we provide lots of services. I'll talk about those things. If you look at it, the goal of these things, right, as I said in the beginning, early detection. In order to do an early detection, we have to have a very good understanding of the landscape of the solution. We start with the solution blueprint review, which should give us a very high level, the type of the solution you're doing, the integration you're going to do, transaction volume you're going to deal with, and any uniqueness with the solution, right? Every business is, unique. There might be some, nuances that we have to understand. Once we have an understanding of that, we go through a series of implementation workshop that I talked about. Once you have completed all of those things, you might have additional risks and issues that you mitigate. Then you go through a go live readiness. A lot of people think of go live readiness is just a checkpoint for us to give you production environment, but entirely that's not kind of the intent at all, right? In this world, we are all in it together. Customer, partner, and us have to understand the risk and make sure that the solution we are taking live is really good, ready for usage, because any challenges that we'll have increases our cost of managing and making sure that your end users are happy with the solution. So our goal is to really do an assessment and ensure that the solution is ready and it meets what we expect to see. We look at some of the telemetry behind the scene to make sure that the data supports the information that we are gathering from the implementation team to make that happen. And then once we have all of those things, we provide the review outcomes, and the goal is to make you successfully implement Dynamics 365. We have had great collaboration with many partners and many customers. We have enjoyed it, and we're continuing to look at it, how we scale as the business grows and as the channel matures in terms of delivery. So if you look at it at the evolution, right, as I said, in 2015, 2016, we started off, we really had two different programs, one for customer engagement and one for operations applications. Even within the different workloads, we had different tiers of program, different levels of eligibility criteria, kind of confusing for all the channel customers and even sometimes our internal salespeople. So in FY20, we took an action to make sure that we unify the eligibility criteria. So we were sure that irrespective of the application you're deploying, your eligibility remains the same. And we still had two different tiers. The reason for that is ERP tends to be a lot more complex, and we were much newer in the market than compared to the customer engagement. So we had FastTrack for about 300K, where we have an assigned architect, and FastTrack Essentials for anything below 300K, to make sure that we give some level of support and drive towards success for every customer. That was our intent. Our one goal was the first few years, 100% coverage for every customer who's deploying Dynamics 365 Cloud. Then last year, with the growth and with the things we have done, we were able to unify those things. So today, all of the eligibility criteria is same, the program tiers are same, and how we evaluate the customer is together. So, and we have also seen a change in the marketplace where more and more customers are deploying both products. They're no longer just an ERP implementation. They're no longer just a CE implementation. With the introduction of Power Platform and Power Platform becoming more prominent, when our improvements that we have made in the process orchestration has allowed us to engage more customers across the workloads. And we are looking at this one program, FastTrack for Dynamics 365, irrespective of how you will look at program and then how we look at the eligibilities at the entire business application level. The next thing we do, right, one of our objectives, if you look at it slightly differently from what is the intent of FastTrack program, as I said, we are an engineering connection to the external audience, right? Our job is to understand the product roadmap, understand what capabilities are coming. And once we have that knowledge, our goal is to make sure that the partners and customer understand the roadmap changes coming, how to implement something, how to take advantage of some new capabilities. Once we have that, we bring that feedback to, back into the through the implementation engineering team to say what need to be improved. What are some of the frictions that we see during implementation? As I said, our goal is to reduce the time to value. If we want to reduce the time to value, we have to make sure that we look at every opportunity to say what kind of frictions or challenges implementation partners and the customers are encountering, and how do we address them on a continuous basis. To help with that, we do lots of things. We do boot camps for all customers and partners, so that more targeted for partners. But the boot camp is to talk about how to implement Dynamics 365. This is a very involved course with a case study base. We have been delivering that for 3 years, and it's very, very popular. That's one of the things we do. Hopefully, most of you have been following Tech Talks. We have changed some of these things in a recent period. One of the things we have really done is, instead of just taking a specific topic, we have created a series. Like we did one for warehouse management, we did one for Power Platform. That way, you're not just getting one component of the capabilities; you're getting the entire suite of applications or modules or areas that you're interested in. The other thing we have done in the last 12 months is really how do we make these kind of capabilities scalable, especially in the background of this pandemic. We had to work through and everything becoming virtual. How do we drive this kind of a learning capability at scale? So we have taken a lot of the products that we have, what we used to do in a physical infrastructure. Now we are moving that into virtual and making that into self-service. So all of the boot camps, the Success by Design training, all of those things are going to be available in MS Learn. The other part that we spend quite a bit of time, as I said, we are part of the engineering team to make the connection, is administer early adoption, right? There are two things you can think about. When the engineering teams are building and then designing things, they do want to hear feedback from that. So we generally do that through the Yammer group, where customers and partners can sign up and then give feedback during the design development. Once the product is designed and development, it goes through different phases. We go through private preview, we go through public preview, then we go into the generally available phase. During that phase, our team administers that kind of an early adoption to make sure that we help those customers to implement. We develop implementation guidelines and we publish the implementation guidelines based on those early adoptions. So again, that's another area we do. You probably have seen our team talk about dual write, Azure Data Lake, and the planning optimization, as well as Cloud Plus Edge. Some of the really big things, small features you manage through feature management, but really big changes go through this kind of a structured program for early adoption. So those are some of the things the team does FastTrack, and it's just not engaging with the customers and delivering implementation successfully. We focus on building resources that help our channel extremely in terms of learning, as well as learning the best practices and understanding the changes that are coming through the product. The few other things that we also focus, most of you have heard, we just announced the third batch of FastTrack Recognized Solution Architect. This is a program we manage with our team to make sure that we recognize the architects who help customers and even their partner teams to excel in their implementation. Their contribution to community and contribution to Dynamics practice is kind of recognized through this program. Our goal is to continue to recognize more architects, and ideally we like to see every implementation partner has at least one FastTrack recognized architect. We also manage the customer advisory board, which is select set of customers who will be invited to join us. We do 2 sessions in a year, generally one in fall and one in late spring. And it has become virtual given the pandemic situation, but otherwise it used to be in-person events. And then we have also created recently, knowing that if you think about it, right, Dynamics has been in the business for a long time. We have a large set of customers who are still operating our on-premises solution. We wanted to make sure that we provide them a path to move to cloud. The Dynamics migration program is intended to help with that kind of a thing. So we manage those kind of programs as well. So as you can see, right, we cover all of the products and various programs to help customers and partners. Our ultimate goal is to drive customer and partner success through successful implementations. I will just do one more slide with a little bit background of my team. Hopefully most of you know Alejandro Gutierrez. He's involved in many projects. Paul Langowski and Matt Sheard. He does a lot of the commerce and the supply chain management projects. Gokul Ramesh on the technology and platform. Dan Ogren, he also helps with our pre-sales and a lot of the implementation project. So that's the team I have. Hopefully you have connected with them. If not, I encourage you to connect with them. They are great resources for you to connect in terms of getting information. Hopefully they will answer some of these questions here and give you the connection as well. I think one last thing I wanted to give you is just a plug-in. We talked about a lot of the resources that we are creating, right? They're all in bits and pieces. One of the things we recognized and realized we should probably do is, put that and package all of that information into a concise form and in a simple place. And we are going to be announcing something soon in the coming, event, the Microsoft Business Applications Summit, MBAS. And we will package all of these things into what we call implementation journey. So look out for more information during MBAS. With that, thank you. And I think Brett and Daniel, we can go back to the questions now. Thanks for
Thank you, Swamy. That was great. We do have a number of questions waiting. If anyone does have a question to ask, please enter your question into chat and we will get to it. The first question is for you, Swamy. What has changed in Dynamics 365?
Great. That's actually a great question. What has changed in Dynamics 365? I think if you just look back over the last 8 to 10 years, hopefully most of you remember AX 2012. AX 2012 was a major change for us from an application design perspective. I think we really created an ERP platform that will cater to large and corporate enterprises. We went through a lot of changes along with that. If you look at the migration to cloud, I think we as Microsoft took a very, very unique approach. Instead of starting from scratch and rewrite the entire thing, we took an approach to say, we want to be able to build a cloud service that allows both new customers as well as the existing customers to be able to transition to cloud operations. So if you look at our initial versions, it was technically exactly same as AX 2012 from a functional footprint, but it was built on a new technologies with a new developer experience to be able to run this as a cloud service. In some sense, you can say it was a little bit more like an application hosting. But over the last 2 to 3 years, if you look at it, the transformation we have done is quite significant. We have moved from a typical monolithic application, and we're taking bits and pieces, applicable one, and moving it into a multi-tenant, leveraging some of the capabilities of the Azure SQL services, making sure that we take advantage of the AI, ML, and other things. So if you look at it, we have gradually transformed with an intention to make sure that we are able to deliver and give adoption to the both new customers and existing customers. So I think that in that sense, I think it's very unique. Yeah, obviously, what has changed is a very big scope. Lots of things have changed, but if you really look at it from a high level perspective, that was our intent, and that's kind of the intention we'll continue to drive towards, is that now that we have created this platform and the service, we will look at taking every components to say what can we further optimize and how can we improve the service in various aspects. I think today, if you look at it, we are probably the only one who can confidently say we can run a manufacturing customer in the cloud. I don't think there is any other vendor who can say with that confidence. So in that aspect, I think we have done quite well, and quite a lot of things have changed. If there is more specific questions within that, what has changed, we're happy to take that one.
And I think to add to that, Swamy, we've also done a great deal of work in building out the functionality of the solution. So you're going to start to see across areas like finance, areas like supply chain, areas like commerce, we're rounding out the solution a great deal more and offering richer capabilities to customers and providing that one-stop shop, if I can use that terminology, because the breadth of the application has certainly grown a great deal from 2012, and it just makes it a lot simpler now for a customer to be able to take on that functionality and use it, because everything is integrated together.
Thank you. Next question is possibly for Gokul. There are limited options when it comes to license estimation in D365 and F&O. For custom security roles and privileges, which most organizations adopt, this is always a challenge to understand and estimate license requirements. How can this be tackled without reaching out to a developer every single time to analyze the menu types?
So this is an interesting question, and there are a couple of parts to the question. So last year, we did release what we call as license estimator or user license estimator. And this report is part of our application. As you know, we moved from a generic operation-based license to specific SKU-based license in the sense that modular-based finance, supply chain, right, and a few others, commerce. So this report is a great starting point to let you know which category that a particular user belongs to. Right, that's a great resource. And if you have any more further questions on that report, please feel free to reach back to me, and if we can enhance it in any other possible way. But when it comes to customizations, it's a bit interesting, right? Because you need to go through that customization in order for you to understand what is required as part of that licensing, right? And also we have seen customers and partners customize standard roles. So when you're customizing the standard roles, when we moved from AX 2012 to D365, in AX 2012, predominantly the security, the way you set up security, all those things were based on a developer experience. But with D365, we moved that into the application. So, for example, you as an architect or a functional consultant, right? Or as a salesperson, you should be able to make these changes within the app and run the user-based license estimator to get the results in terms of how do you estimate. But also there is this one great report. While I read this question, this came to my mind. Again, this is not a bit developer experience, but it does require you to go into a developer environment. And in the Visual Studio, if you go to Dynamics 365 tab, there is a button there called Security and Licenses Related Information. And basically, this gives you a spreadsheet with all your roles and assigned licenses. So when we look at the license, we always look at from a role perspective, because a license, like a role, may be a combination of multiple duties and privileges, and each of those have different level of access, right? So we always look at the role level, and this particular report is a great tool to work with, and it's basically a spreadsheet, so you can export, and for most part, like if you're looking at standard application, it remains the same. So based on this question, and while I was thinking about like what are the different resources you can look at, what came to my mind is the report that we have that exports to spreadsheet. Maybe we can look at putting that in the app, so that you as an architect or salesperson or functional consultant, you can run that from the app itself rather than going back to a developer or a development experience.
Thank you. Next question could be maybe Alejandro or Dan. How do you recommend that we discuss and plan project-specific customizations to be converted into an industry-tuned feature and added with priority in the product roadmap, or get a chance to contribute and vote on it?
Brett, I will take that question. I think Dan had to drop off for another one. I think that's a great question, right? I think if you look at what channels you have to provide feedback to engineering. So it starts with Ideas Portal, which is one way to give feedback or recognize things that you want to see in the product, where other community members can vote for it, and our program managers are always looking at their queues to say what kind of feedback is coming. If the question is specifically saying, I have built something specific to an industry, what kind of channel I have to be able to influence the product team? There is a program called Community Driven Engineering, CDE, which allows you to basically submit the work you have developed, any feature capabilities, small work items to be able to considered by engineering team for inclusion into the product team. Once you submit it, they basically look at the capability, make sure that it's applicable to cross industries in all geos, or things you might have to further enhance to make productize it. As you all can imagine, right? When you build for something specific to a customer or specific to your use, you tend to focus around your requirements. Whereas as a product company, we have to make sure that the changes are applicable to all industries we support and all scenarios we support. So the engineering teams evaluate and make a decision to say whether to include or not. Typically, this is good for small, minor types of things. And then there are other avenues if you're working with us, it's slightly more complicated in terms of engagement model. There are ways for you to influence and work with the product team. You can connect with the FastTrack team at that time to discuss those channels. But I would say the two easy and publicly available information is, one is the Ideas Portal. The second one is Community Driven Engineering Program.
Thank you.
And for me, I would like to mention a couple of great features that came out of community-driven engineering were dual currency. So just wanted to throw that out there so that audience can understand if there are features like that. We do honor that through the community-driven engineering.
Okay, next question. This may be for Gokul. Many of my customers have a gap between connectivity of on-premise SQL Server and Azure SQL Database. They still expect ERP should run 24/365, no downtime. What's the best value of cloud ERP?
Thanks, Brett. Again, if I understand the question, maybe the connectivity question was meant more around the features, parity between SQL on-prem and SQL Azure. That's one question I heard, and the other question is around how do I operate a 24/7 with no downtime, right? So in terms of SQL connectivity and SQL parity, right? When we started in the cloud, there were certain gaps in terms of SQL Azure and on-prem. I'm going back like 2015, right? Through these years, most of the things from a functionality standpoint are now with the parity is now the same, and there is no gap. In fact, some of the things that we have recently released are more on the SQL Azure side, right? So that's where our focus is. And in terms of connectivity, I don't know if the connectivity is a question of your internal network connecting to on-prem or Azure, right? So I don't know where that question comes from, but when we talk about connectivity, you as a user, we are a customer, we don't want you to worry about connectivity to SQL. It's more around connectivity to app. And we do have like great resources in our docs in terms of explaining what is the latency you need to expect, and which region or data center to choose so that you can minimize latency. And we also have other options in terms of enhancing your network connectivity to Azure, right? So we do have capabilities like that. And the last question there was around 24/7. So if you look at the customers today that are using Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, we do have customers operating 24/7. So when we talk about downtime, there are broadly three categories of downtime. One is where we as Microsoft do monthly updates. And the second downtime is when you as a customer, you have extensions which you have developed and you want to service your production environment with your customizations or extensions. And the third one is the monthly security updates. And quite honestly, this topic is in top of our mind because as we mature as a cloud service, we want to kind of invest in a lot more capabilities like this. So that being said, for now, our focus is on reducing or what we call as near zero downtime for security patches that we do on a monthly basis, right? This has been internally tested and it is ready. So our focus is right now to test it with a few set of customers, which we call as private preview. So again, this is based upon our SDLC policy, where we test few things privately with few customers, then we open up for public preview, and then we GA, right? So hang on tight. The near zero downtime for security patches are just around the corner. So the public preview should be announced in a couple of months, and then maybe you'll hear from us around October in terms of taking that GA. So as we think about this, we are now, so this is step one, and the step two is go tackle the Microsoft monthly updates. So some of the investments that we are doing right now will just accrue towards and will be applicable when we roll this out for the Microsoft monthly updates.
Next question. A customer wants to move to AX 2012 on D365 supply chain management into the process. How do you manage to update all the month with the upgrade project?
So maybe do you want to start? And
yeah, I'll start and then I think, Pierre, that's a good question. Thanks for asking that one. I think if you think about migration projects, right, I think you have to divide this into two phases, major phases you can think about. When you are doing an upgrade, you are basically doing a code upgrade and a data upgrade, and then you will actually go through the validation cycles. For the initial phases, for the code upgrade and the data upgrade, especially code upgrade, you will most likely use what we refer to as cloud-hosted environments or the tier 1 environments, where you have full control over your updates and other things when you take it. We totally recognize that during that kind of a phase, you want to work with a static code base so you can get through the code upgrade. Once you have done those, code upgrade done, for the data upgrade, you might need to use this, tier 2 or a tier 3 environment, depending on the data side, or you could be able to do it in the cloud-hosted environment with a beefed-up SQL environment as well. But I think once you have completed that phase, you will get into typical LCS implementation projects where you, use the Microsoft managed environment. From that point onwards, you should follow the best practices of taking updates on a monthly basis, keeping current, and then doing any other validation experiences. But at least for the initial few months where you're doing the code and data upgrade, you will likely to manage that through your cloud-hosted environment where you have a little bit more flexibility. Gokul, anything you would add there?
So when you are thinking about developing, for example, as part of upgrade, you would move your customizations from overlayering to extension. So as part of this, we want you to take one of the version which you start with and go through the process as much as possible. The only thing I want to call out there is if there is a dependency on any of the extension points that you require from Microsoft, we ship extension points as part of the monthly updates. So if I have started on, let's say, 10.0.17, and you were expecting extension request that you created with Microsoft in LCS, let's say that got shipped into 10.0.18. So to finish your development cycle, you would need 10.0.18, right? That's when you have to, as Swamy said, you would be using a cloud-hosted environment. You would have to update your cloud-hosted environment so that you can get that extension point. That's the only point.
Next question. We are in the initial stages of implementation. Will partner responsibilities include access to Contoso demo environment, make us aware of Microsoft Bootcamp and Tech Talks, and any knowledge transfer, or to increase D365 knowledge to customer? Please clarify.
I guess the answer to the question is when you're partnering with your Dynamics solution partner, that relationship is one that is built upon them driving and helping you make that transformational journey, right? So those sorts of aspects of educating you to become self-sufficient as a customer, understanding the resources that are available. We have several resources available, such as Tech Talks, which you once you know the link and where to find those, we update those on a regular basis. So you get access to that information as we deliver it. The other thing that you get access to is a schedule in terms of when we're running boot camps and training and through our MS Learn portal as well. So those sorts of capabilities are all available to the partner and all available to you, and you're able to access those and leverage them.
Thank you. Another question about partners. What can a customer expect from his Microsoft partner?
Yeah, so the relationship with the partner, and I kind of touched on it from the previous question, that relationship is one where the partner is to drive the implementation of the product, but it's less about pressing this button, pressing that button in terms of functionality. What it's about is reevaluating the business process, understanding how are you as an organization looking at your business processes and the functional capabilities, and is there a way to be able to leverage the Microsoft technology stack? And I think when all of us are in this mindset of implementing business applications, it's much more than just Am I putting a finance, a GL system in? Am I putting an inventory management system in? Those pieces are important, but it's what can I do with that data and leverage it as a business and start to take advantages of other opportunities, whereby maybe Power BI is something where I want to give a great deal of information to the fingertips of all my business users. Does that mean it's portal access to get that rich data? So think of your partner relationship as certainly covering off on the business application side, but what can they bring to the table in order to expand the solutions to provide better access to information for all your users within the organization? So really driving that business transformation as well as the core functional business requirements that you need.
Thank you. And maybe another one for you. What are the major capabilities that F&O has for a manufacturer that Business Central does not have?
Good question. Good question. So Business Central, as we know it, was the old NAV product for those of us that have been around a while. It has some great rich capabilities in and around production management. It has, a good standard bill of materials. You get things like action messages and exception messages for your MRP run. You've got some capacity requirement planning as well as some costing and order promising capabilities and some demand forecasting. And the way we look at it from a Business Central standpoint is it's got some very rich capabilities that give a small to medium organization that functionality required to do manufacturing. Now, when we compare that to something like a finance and operations application, this is where that base footprint starts to grow. So if I just take manufacturing strategies for a moment, with F&O, we not only get a discrete type manufacturing, that's a standard bill of material one each, we start to offer things like process manufacturing for formula-based bills of material, moving into the food type industry and the chemical type industry. We also then provide a lean type manufacturing capability out of the box. So Kanban cards, pull requests. We also then start to interject things like machine learning based demand forecasting instead of just looking at some base algorithms for historical demand patterns. We then also look at things like enterprise asset maintenance that comes into the mix. So you're still getting that good rich functionality, but with F&O, it's adding on these additional pieces for a much larger enterprise that gives that end-to-end manufacturing solution.
Thank you. Gokul, this may be for you. Data migration. We have AX 2012 on premises where we have data of over a year. Now we're moving to D365 Cloud. What's the best practice or SOX or any requirement to migrate data of how many years, like 2, 5, 7 years, just to start with beginning balances?
Thanks, Brett. Great question, right? And this is one of the questions we quite often tend to address when each and every customer makes this journey to move to the cloud, right? So when we talk about customers moving from AX 2012 to D365, we see that happen in a couple of ways, right? One is what we call as upgrade. Where we upgrade your existing AX 2012 data and lift and shift the entire data to the cloud, right? And the second experience is around you picking and choosing what data you want to bring to the cloud and using data entities to facilitate the movement of data from AX 2012 to D365, right? So in terms of the best practice, it goes back to what is it that the customer needs, right? There are customers where they want to start with minimal set of data, and this comes with they take this opportunities as a data cleansing effort, because if you see customers would have started AX 2012 maybe like in 2010. And we have seen customers where they have accrued certain set of bad data, and they take this opportunity to clean up and transform their data before they move to the cloud. And if you're a customer where you have good data governance in place, you have a good quality of data, and let's say you don't have a fairly large database, like more than like a terabyte or something like that, right? Then you can go through the upgrade process. Again, I gave the example of 1 terabyte, just an example, but again, it's up to the customer. So our guidance is, if you can start light in the cloud, then that would be our recommendation. And we do have great set of tools and guidances there in terms of right. We now have data lake, and for some of you who might know, we in the GitHub in the community center, we released a great way to export your AX 2012 data to the lake in the CDM folder format, right? And so with this CDM folder format, you are bringing all the historical AX 2012 data in the common notion that all the connectors will understand in the data lake. So our idea is you would park all the historical data in the lake and bring the minimal data into the cloud through the opening balances. And then you can write Power BI reports to mash up the data as per your needs. And going back to the question about whether should I bring 2 years balances, 5 years balances, 7-year balance. So we have seen it varies by industry. It also varies by which country you are in. So from an opening balance standpoint, we really don't have any concerns in terms of how much data you bring in opening balance. It's really up to you because it's minimalistic data. So based on your need, you can go up to 7 years. We have seen in pharma industry, they want for 10 years, so they bring balances for 10 years, right? From an experience standpoint, we do offer both. And as in when customers are moving, we are seeing more requirement towards a migration path too. So we as Microsoft, we are thinking about some tool sets to help customers who opt for the migration path. So you will hear from us soon. And one last thing I do want to call out is while 4 terabyte is the limit, if there are any customers beyond that, let us know. There are certain ways we can enable more than that based on your requirement.
Thank you. Got about 10 minutes left. Next question, where to start to become FastTrack recognized?
Good, I'll take that one, Brett. I think that's a great question. As I said in the beginning, right, ideally we like to see every partner have an architect who is recognized by FastTrack. I think the best place to start, what we look for in terms of capabilities and skill set is delivering, proven track record of delivering successful implementations. So if you are looking for FastTrack recognized architect to become a FastTrack recognized architect, start working on project that gives you the breadth of experiences to implement Dynamics 365 and complex solutions. Work with the FastTrack architect who is assigned to that project and then demonstrate how you're able to do SPRs or any other implementation reviews with us in a successful fashion. Really what we look at the end of the day is, is the customer successful and is customer, advocating you as a successful member of that implementation team. So that will be the best place to start. Really, when we look at the nominations, we look at your, successful implementation, the work you have collaborated with things, and your credentials that you bring with the other references. That's the best place. And the more work you do with community will also help, because I think the broader impact you create to the community, the more value we put on those architects. That's kind of the places where I would look at it.
Thank you. Next question. As I understand, Microsoft will drive most of the solution blueprint and go live readiness reviews, 300K plus projects. which does require a good amount of interaction. From the perspective of mandatory workshops and necessary optional workshops, what is the typical timeline Microsoft recommends that partners should include in the project plan with their customers to tackle common issues of large data migrations and integrations, Dataverse, etc.?
Yeah, Brett, I can take that question, and maybe Swamy and Matt can also chime in if there's anything. When we, like as Swamy mentioned earlier in the slide, when we look at a existing project, we want to be proactive, right? That's the first goal for us in terms of engagement. Our involvement around the project and the customer and the partner revolves around this notion of solution blueprint review. That's our starting point. And we want this experience to be as easy as possible for both customer and partner. So when we talk about solution blueprint, we don't want you to start cooking up new documents, right, as part of preparing for this workshop or session, right? So we can look at your existing documents that you have built. In most of the cases, what we have found is there are existing set of documents that we can just stitch together. In some cases, we did find that you might have to go back and work on a few things. But again, think of this as a benefit for customer to be successful. And we want to start solution blueprint as soon as we as FastTrack we engage. And this should be as part of the initiation process. When you have a conceptual design ready based on your requirements, that's when we would ideally like to start solution blueprint review. And solution blueprint review is a bit of iterative process. The reason is we start with the initial set of solution blueprint, and there may be, coming out of that first workshop, there may be certain things, we identify risk and issues. Based on the risk and issues, there might be further workshops that we would dwell into. That's where the mandatory and optional workshops come into play. Because based on the risk profile and risk areas, then we decide, hey, for this customer, maybe this workshop is further applicable where we want to do a deep dive, right? So that's where I call the iterative SBR. So one of the great example would be like data migration or let's say business analytics, right? So these are some of the things where customers might not have fully thought through. So we go through deep dive workshops and bring in that additional guidance and best practice knowledge in those areas. So that's how we kind of look at it in terms of what are the mandatory workshops versus what is it optional. And these workshops will happen based on, like, for example, data migration is very crucial before you start your testing cycle. So that workshop is bound to happen as part of, like, when you are doing design. Parallelly, there would be data migration workshop so that you can start with your mock load, right? Similarly, Power BI, right? So based on where that happens in the cycle, that's when we would like to do so that the outcome of those workshops, you would have enough runway to go implement those.
And just to add to that, Gokul, you're absolutely right. And how we think about best practice and sort of managing all of those, like Gokul said, we do that first solution blueprint review. Then we gauge, is there newer technologies like Dataverse? Is there newer technologies coming out whereby we could benefit from some of these additional workshops? I always make it a point to work very closely with the project manager as well as the program director to say, these iterative workshops, let's get them scheduled based upon the project lifecycle, right? So get them tied in, get agreement from the solution architect team that, hey, we're going to be looking to running these at this particular milestone within the project. Then everybody sees that there's going to be a very structured approach in terms of how we're going to provide that best practice guidance through the life cycle and the journey of the project. What we don't want to do is basically just simply do that solution blueprint review and then, the project goes on the journey. We like to stay connected through that process, and this is where Gokul was talking about some of those iterative workshops. Get them locked into the project plan, get everybody agreeing that these are the dates and times when we're going to run it. Of course, things change, that happens, but certainly putting them front and center also psychologically means the importance is there, and Microsoft partner and customer are working together on these.
Yeah, thanks, Gokul and Matt. I would probably put slightly another view. I think those are very good points and valid details, right? I think that if you think about the question is how much hours we should estimate, right? I think you should really think as partner, right? Every implementation has unknowns. I'm sure everybody has accounted for some risk, some buffer and reserves to account for those things. By engaging with FastTrack, you should think about that you are able to save some of those hours and get positive impact to the project. It should not be net additive effort. By working with Microsoft team, you're able to get those best practices, best guidance, and resolve issues in a faster fashion. That way, the net should be you are saving hours in your implementation. That's how our intent is, and that's how it needs to come out as. So while you might think that, hey, I'm spending time on these hours, but if you look at cumulatively, without our involvement, you probably would have more spend in analyzing and then solving those issues. It should reduce. That's how I would like you to think about it. I'm sure there are nuances and happy to have those further discussion on those things. Brett, I don't know how we are doing on time. Back to you.
We've got 2 minutes, maybe one more quick one. Where can a customer acquire best practice knowledge?
Great question. I think you cued that very well. I think, as I said right in the beginning, our FastTrack motivation is to make sure that the customers and partners are fully equipped and knowledgeable on all the changes and all the information that's possibly can be gained. My first and foremost recommendation for keeping current would be tech talks. As within the community, we publish every tech talk. You can look at, all the archives are available. You can also subscribe to these tech talks. So when we announce something new or when we publish new, you get notified of the new tech talks. That would be my first source of information. The second one I would recommend is the workshops that we deliver, whether it's boot camps or whether it's success by design workshops or any product specific advanced workshops we do, that would be the second source of information. These are designed more for implementation consultants or people with deep product knowledge. If you are a beginner, probably some of those courses are not, good starting point, but you can certainly graduate to that level of thing. The third one I would look at it is the implementation section that we have it in the docs. Those are also places where we publish information for that. The similar to docs is MS Learn would be the other area where we are growing in terms of the knowledge articles that we are publishing and the workshops. Our intent is to everything that we used to deliver in person, we want that to be available in MS Learn. The last and probably the most important thing I'll say is, as we recognize, there is a lot of things available in different places. It's hard for somebody to understand where to find them. To address that one in the coming weeks, we'll make an announcement where we will create all of this in packaged fashion. You can learn this in a implementation journey from all the way from post-sales to go live. So that will be available, and that announcement should come in the coming weeks.
Fawad, over to you.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful session. Swamy, thank you very much. Gokul, Matt, amazing set of questions coming. Seems like you guys are staying busy here. Great to see that. We had a lot of questions. We didn't have enough time. It's always great to see these sessions where we can't answer some of those. That tells us how excited you all are out there. We will be posting this video, and any unanswered questions would also be posted on the community. Go to community.dynamics.com and look for community galleries and look for AMAs in there. And I do want to do another plug-in for Tech Talks. We have amazing videos, really deep technical Tech Talks that the FastTrack team puts a lot of time and effort along with other product teams to build these videos for you. You definitely want to go look at those and go through them, and they are across all the products and services that we have. So definitely a great resource. I do want to thank very quickly Daniel and Brett, who were moderating this AMA. We are going to continue to bring you more AMAs. We'll bring in leaders and execs like Swamy to come and talk to us about their products, about their programs, and how you all can take advantage of that. Thank you again, community. It's, hey, let's continue to share and learn together and disseminate this knowledge to everyone. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.